The office blinds rattled slightly as the brisk wind from the bay swept through the room, bringing with it the salty scent of the ocean. Johnny Ryder sat behind his cluttered desk, the soft glow of his desk lamp casting long shadows that danced across the dimly lit room. A cigarette smouldered in an ashtray, its thin trail of smoke curling upwards like a phantom. Seated across from Johnny were his two loyal companions, Billy Bubbles and Daisy Diamonds. Billy, a tall and lanky man with a perpetually dazed expression, twirled a coin between his fingers, his vacant gaze fixed on the spinning metal. "So, what's the word on the street, folks?" he drawled, his voice raspy and drenched in the jaded coolness of a seasoned detective. Billy blinked, the coin he'd been toying with slipping from his grasp and clattering onto the floor. He fumbled to retrieve it, mumbling something about darned gravity. Daisy leaned forward, her emerald eyes sparkling with intrigue. "Johnny, you won't believe what we've heard. There's been a murder down on the docks." Johnny raised an eyebrow, the glint of curiosity flashing in his eyes. "Docks, huh? Tell me more." Daisy leaned back, her red lips curling into a sly smile. "Seems like it was a real dark and stormy night, Johnny. A seedy joint down by the waterfront. Witnesses say they heard shots fired, and by the time the fog lifted, there was a body sprawled out on the pier." Billy nodded eagerly, finally regaining control of his coin. "Yeah, Johnny, and here's the kicker. Rumour has it there was a dame involved. A real looker, they say. She's disappeared into the mist, leaving nothing but unanswered questions." Johnny Ryder crushed his cigarette in the ashtray and rose from his chair, his fedora casting a shadow over his chiseled features. "Well, you two, it sounds like we've got ourselves a case." He flicked the brim of his hat down with a practiced motion. "Let's head down to those docks and see what trouble's brewing. If there's a dame mixed up in this, you can bet it's going to get as tangled as a ball of yarn." With that, the trio set off into the fog-shrouded streets of 1960s San Francisco, where danger lurked in every corner and mysteries waited to be unraveled. Before Johnny, Billy and Daisy could embark on their journey to the fog-choked docks, fate intervened in the form of an unexpected visitor. The creaking of the doorknob turning echoed through the office, and a striking beauty stepped into the dimly lit room. Her auburn hair cascaded like a waterfall over her shoulders, and her emerald green eyes held a mixture of urgency and fear. But before anyone could exchange a word, a gunshot rang out, and the woman crumpled to the floor like a marionette with its strings cut. Johnny, ever the quickest draw in the room, was already in motion, lunging forward to catch her before she hit the ground. Her breaths came in shallow gasps as blood seeped from her shoulder. Billy, ever the one to notice peculiar details, knelt beside the woman and gently pried her fingers open. "Hey, Johnny, look here," he said, holding up a small note clutched in the woman's trembling hand. Johnny took the note, examining it closely. 6 numbers were scrawled across the paper, their meaning shrouded in mystery. He frowned, his sharp mind working to decipher their significance. "This ain't your everyday note," he mused, his voice a low murmur. Daisy, her eyes wide with a mixture of concern and curiosity, moved closer to get a better look. "What do you make of it, Johnny? Some kind of code, maybe?" Johnny shook his head, his eyes narrowing as he gazed at the numbers. "Could be, Daisy, but I can't crack it just yet. We'll need to dig deeper. This dame," he nodded toward the wounded woman, "she's brought trouble right to our doorstep." Outside, the city's heartbeat continued to thrum, unaware of the new twist in the detective's journey. Johnny Ryder, the embodiment of the gritty detective era, cradled the injured woman in his arms, determined to uncover the secrets behind those cryptic numbers and the dangerous game that had just begun. Johnny Ryder stepped out into the night, leaving his office behind, and ventured into the neon-lit labyrinth of the city streets. The numbers from the mysterious note danced through his mind like a tantalizing riddle, each digit a potential clue in a puzzle waiting to be solved. As he walked, he mulled over the possibilities. Could the numbers be a code, coordinates, or a time? Perhaps a combination to a safe or a locker holding something valuable. The possibilities were as endless as the city itself, but Johnny knew that one thing was certain. It was a message meant for someone, and he intended to find out who. His footsteps echoed on the pavement as he approached a dimly lit building, its entrance guarded by a pair of burly bouncers. The place was a local hangout known to harbour gangsters, a breeding ground for secrets and shady deals. Johnny, never one to shy away from trouble, pushed open the heavy door and strolled inside. The low hum of conversation and the clinking of glasses filled the smoky air. He made his way to the bar, the bartender nodding in recognition. Leaning against the polished wood, Johnny ordered a bourbon and took a sip, his eyes scanning the room. It didn't take long for the locals to notice his presence, and whispers spread like wildfire. Johnny Ryder, the relentless detective, had entered their midst. A tall, well-dressed man with a scarred face and a fedora, pulled low, approached Johnny, a sinister grin curving his lips. "Well, well, Johnny Ryder, what brings you to our humble establishment tonight?" Johnny met the man's gaze without flinching, his voice dripping with wry humor. "Just looking for a friendly face, Jimmy. You know how it is in this city. Sometimes you gotta make your own friends." Jimmy chuckled, his eyes narrowing. "You always did have a way with words, Ryder. But you'd best watch your step around here. Things ain't always what they seem." Johnny's lips curled into a half-smile. "You don't say, Jimmy. I'm just here for a drink and some conversation. No need for trouble." As the night wore on, Johnny Ryder mingled with the unsavory characters of the city's underbelly, listening for any whispers or hints that might shed light on the mysterious numbers. Trouble may have followed him wherever he went, but he was determined to uncover the truth, no matter where the high heels of fate might lead him. The night grew darker as Johnny Ryder left the shadowy confines of the gangsters' hangout, his mind still grappling with the enigmatic numbers from the note. He needed more pieces to this puzzle, and he knew that his faithful companions, Daisy and Billy, were his best shot at finding them. Finding a payphone on a dimly lit corner, Johnny slipped a dime into the slot and dialed his office number. Daisy's voice, tinged with curiosity and concern, crackled through the line. "Johnny, where are you? It's late." "Never you mind, sweetheart," Johnny replied in his trademark gravelly tone. "I need you and Billy to keep those ears of yours open for any chatter about a recent diamond heist in the city. It's a hot lead, and I've got a hunch it's connected to those numbers." Daisy, ever efficient and resourceful, assured him, "We'll get right on it, Johnny. You know we've got your back." With that, Johnny hung up the phone, knowing that Daisy and Billy would be hitting the streets, listening to the buzz and gathering information like a pair of seasoned pros. Weariness weighed on Johnny's shoulders as he turned away from the payphone. The investigation had taken its toll, and he knew the city's shadows held many secrets yet to be revealed. But every detective needed rest, even one as tenacious as Johnny Ryder. He hailed a cab and headed to a small, dimly lit apartment he kept for nights like these. The faded wallpaper and dim lamplight provided a temporary sanctuary from the relentless chaos of his work. Johnny settled into a worn-out armchair, his fedora resting on the table beside him. As he closed his eyes, the image of those mysterious numbers haunted his thoughts. The city never slept, and neither did its mysteries. Johnny Ryder, the man who made his own friends, would face whatever the dawn brought, ready to chase shadows and uncover the truth once more. Johnny Ryder stirred on the weathered couch in his office, a place where rest and solitude intertwined with the persistent demands of his profession. The aroma of fresh coffee and a modest sandwich wafted through the air, courtesy of Daisy Diamonds, who always had a knack for taking care of him. As Johnny sat up, his eyes found Daisy at her desk, her pencil dancing over a notepad, jotting down leads and snippets of information. Billy Bubbles, ever the loyal companion, occupied a nearby chair, his brow furrowed in deep thought. "Morning, Johnny," Daisy greeted him with a warm smile as she handed him a steaming cup of coffee. "Morning," Johnny replied, taking the coffee and savouring its rich, revitalizing taste. He bit into the sandwich, all the while listening to Billy, whose voice was laced with intrigue. "Johnny," Billy began, "I did some digging, and it looks like our businessman with the stolen diamonds had a name, Frank Sullivan. He was found dead on the docks last night." Johnny's interest piqued. "Dead, you say? That complicates things?" Billy nodded solemnly. "Yeah, but it gets stranger. Seems the woman we found with the numbers in her hand might have had something going with Sullivan. She's Bobby One Thumb's girl. Johnny couldn't help but let out a low whistle. Bobby One Thumb was a name that sent shivers down the spines of even the toughest in the city. Getting mixed up with someone like him could lead to dire consequences. So it all connects, Johnny mused, sipping his coffee thoughtfully. Stolen diamonds, a dead businessman, and a dame with ties to the underworld. This case just keeps getting better and better. Daisy, her eyes sharp and determined, chimed in, "What's our next move, Johnny?" Johnny leaned back in his chair, the gears of his mind turning as he contemplated their next steps. The tangled web of deceit, crime, and mystery was slowly unraveling, and he was determined to follow it to the very end. "First, we need to find out more about Frank Sullivan's business dealings," Johnny declared, his voice steady and resolute. "Then we pay a visit to Bobby One Thumb. I have a feeling our answers lie in the heart of that dangerous web." With renewed determination, Johnny, Daisy, and Billy prepared to delve deeper into the shadows of San Francisco, where secrets and danger lurked around every corner. The city's heartbeat pulsed in the background, a constant reminder that the only way out was forward, through the twists and turns of the 1960s NOIR landscape. Johnny Ryder stepped out of his office, the city streets alive with the energy of another day's beginning. The fog that had shrouded the night had dissipated, revealing a sun that was reluctant to fully emerge. It was the perfect setting for the kind of day he was about to embark on, his destination, Frank Sullivan's house. The businessman's abode was a far cry from the grandeur of some of the city's wealthy elite. Located on the outskirts of town, it was a modest place with a manicured front yard that showed signs of recent neglect. As Johnny approached, he couldn't help but notice the uncanny silence that hung in the air. Inside, Johnny began his search with methodical precision, going through drawers, papers, and any nook or cranny that might hold a clue. The room was dimly lit, curtains drawn, and the air was thick with the scent of aged wood and faded memories. Amidst stacks of old invoices and business records, Johnny's sharp eyes finally landed on a dusty wooden desk with a locked drawer. It was a well-crafted piece, suggesting it held something of value. Johnny reached into his pocket and retrieved a lockpick, a tool of his trade that had served him well on countless occasions. With deft fingers, he worked the lock, the satisfying click of success echoing in the quiet room. He pulled the drawer open, revealing a series of folders. One of them was labeled Investments, and Johnny's intuition told him he was on the right track. As he leafed through the folder, he found a series of documents, each detailing various transactions and holdings. But it was the final sheet that caught his eye, an empty safe with a combination of 6 numbers scrawled across it. The very same numbers the mysterious woman had clutched in her lifeless hand. Johnny's mind raced with possibilities. It was becoming clearer that Frank Sullivan had been involved in something far more complex than mere stolen diamonds. The combination could be the key to unlocking the truth, but where did it lead? With the newfound information in hand, Johnny left the house, his mind already at work on the next steps. The city's labyrinthine streets held secrets waiting to be uncovered, and he was determined to navigate them with the finesse of a seasoned detective. As he walked back to his office, he couldn't shake the feeling that the city was on the brink of revelation, and he, Johnny Ryder, was poised to unearth the hidden truths that lay beneath the surface. Johnny Ryder returned to his office, a sense of purpose burning within him. He knew he was inching closer to unraveling the tangled web of secrets that had ensnared him from the moment that mysterious woman had walked into his office. Daisy Diamonds, his steadfast secretary, looked up as he entered. Her sharp eyes took in his determined expression, and she knew that Johnny had made a breakthrough. She rose from her desk, her pencil skirt swishing as she moved. Johnny wasted no time. "I found the combination in Frank Sullivan's desk, Daisy. It matches the numbers the dame had." Daisy nodded in understanding. "That's a significant piece of the puzzle, Johnny. It's all starting to come together." Johnny agreed, but there was still much to uncover. He glanced at his watch, realizing that it was time to pay a visit to the notorious gangster, Bobby One Thumb. "Daisy, I'm heading out to see Bobby One Thumb. I need to get some answers from her. Keep an ear out for any information and meet me at the usual spot later tonight." Daisy, never one to shy away from danger, nodded again. "You got it, Johnny. Be careful out there." With that, Johnny left his office, the city's neon lights casting eerie shadows as he descended into the dark streets of San Francisco. He knew that danger lurked around every corner, but Johnny Ryder was ready to confront it head-on. The city held secrets, and he was determined to unearth them no matter the cost. Johnny Ryder strolled into the dimly lit hangout like he owned the joint. Smoke hung thick in the air, and the buzz of whispered conversations filled the room. Men and women, dressed in their finest, sipped cocktails and exchanged secrets. Bobby One Thumb, a burly figure with a scarred face and a single intact thumb, sat at the corner table. He was known for his ruthless demeanor and control over the local underworld. Johnny made his way toward him, his fedora tilted low over his eyes. "Good evening, Bobby," Johnny greeted him with a wry smile, leaning casually against the table. "Seems like you've got a bit of a situation on your hands." The club fell eerily silent as every pair of eyes turned toward the unexpected visitor. The tension was palpable and Johnny's heart pounded in his chest. Bobby One Thumb didn't flinch, but his eyes held a dangerous glint. "And who might you be, handsome?" Johnny didn't waste any time. "The name's Johnny Ryder, and I'm in the business of solving mysteries. I know what's been happening in this city, and the poor girl who walked into my office didn't deserve what she got." A hushed murmur swept through the club as the patrons listened in on the confrontation. Pistols seemed to materialize in the hands of those around him, a stark reminder of the danger he faced. Bobby leaned back in his chair, his fingers drumming rhythmically on the table. "So, Johnny Ryder, you think you've got it all figured out, huh? Care to share with the rest of us?" Johnny wasn't one to back down. "That girl, she was your girl, Bobby. But she had something going on with Frank Sullivan, and he had something you wanted, diamonds. So, you got rid of him. When she found out and was ready to spill the beans, you made sure she was silenced for good." Bobby won. Thumb's icy gaze bore into Johnny, but his lips curled into a wicked smile. "You're sharper than you look, Johnny, but now that you know, it's your turn. Boys, take him." The entire club erupted into chaos as pistols were aimed in Johnny's direction. It seemed like the end of the line for our fearless detective, but Johnny Ryder had faced danger before and he always had a trick or two up his sleeve. In the chaotic, dimly lit club, as the menacing figures closed in on Johnny Ryder, a sudden burst of commotion shattered the tension. The club's entrance exploded open, and in stormed Billy Bubbles, the unlikely hero, with Daisy Diamonds and a small army of 20 police officers, led by the no-nonsense Sergeant O'Malley. Johnny couldn't help but grin beneath his fedora as he watched the tide turn in his favor. Well, well, seems like the cavalry has arrived just in the nick of time. The room erupted into chaos as the police officers fanned out, their pistols drawn, and the patrons of the club suddenly found themselves outnumbered and outgunned. Panic spread like wildfire among Bobby One Thumb's men. Sergeant O'Malley, a broad-shouldered Irishman with a face etched with years of streetwise experience, barked orders to his officers. "You heard the man. Everyone drop your weapons and put your hands where we can see 'em." With a cacophony of clattering firearms, the thugs inside the club reluctantly obeyed. They were no match for the long arm of the law. Johnny Ryder strolled forward, his confidence unshaken. "Seems you helped us put the missing pieces together, Bobby." Bobby One Thumb, now disarmed and outnumbered, scowled at Johnny. "You won't get away with this, Ryder." Johnny shot back with his characteristic wit. "Well, it looks like you're the one who's all thumbs now, Bobby." The room erupted in laughter, a stark contrast to the tension that had gripped it just moments earlier. The police officers swiftly apprehended Bobby One Thumb and his associates, leading them out in handcuffs. Sergeant O'Malley approached Johnny with a nod of approval. "You did good work, Ryder. You've helped us bring down one of the city's most dangerous criminals." Johnny's expression was cool and collected. "Just doing my part to clean up this town, Sarge." As the criminals were led away, Daisy Diamonds joined Johnny, and Billy Bubbles scratched his head, a sheepish grin on his face. Together, they had unraveled the twisted web of crime that had ensnared the city, and justice had prevailed. With a satisfied smile, Johnny turned to Sergeant O'Malley. "Lock them up for good this time, Sarge." As the club's doors swung shut behind the departing criminals, the night in San Francisco had taken a turn for the better. Johnny Ryder, the sharp-witted detective with a knack for solving mysteries, had once again emerged victorious, leaving the city a safer place for all. As the sun dipped below the San Francisco skyline, casting long shadows across the city, Johnny Ryder, Daisy Diamonds, and Billy Bubbles found themselves back in the cozy confines of Johnny's office. The room was bathed in the warm glow of lamplight, and a friendly game of cards was underway. Johnny, with his fedora perched at a rakish angle, sipped from a glass of bourbon as he surveyed his hand. "Well, folks, looks like Lady Luck's on my side tonight." Daisy, her fingers deftly shuffling the deck, flashed a sly smile. "Don't count your aces before they're dealt, Johnny." Billy, always the joker of the bunch, chimed in. "Yeah, Johnny, you've got as much luck as a black cat on Friday the 13th. The banter and laughter flowed freely, punctuated by the clinking of glasses and the rustling of cards. In the midst of their revelry, they momentarily forgot the dangers of their detective work, cherishing these moments of camaraderie. But just as they were about to call it a night, the office door swung open with a dramatic flourish, and in walked a stunning blonde with an air of urgency. "Please, you have to help me," she implored, her azure eyes wide with fear. "Close the curtains quickly." Johnny, ever the gallant detective, obliged, pulling the heavy curtains shut to shield the room from prying eyes. "All right, ma'am, you've got our attention. What's got you so worked up?" The blonde took a deep breath, her voice quivering. "My name's Veronica, and I'm in serious trouble. I think I've stumbled onto something big, something dangerous." Daisy, ever the compassionate one, offered her a seat and a comforting smile. "Take a seat, Veronica. Start from the beginning and we'll see what we can do." Veronica began her tale, her words a mix of fear and determination. It seemed she had unwittingly uncovered a web of corruption and deceit that reached the highest echelons of San Francisco's elite. She spoke of shadowy figures and clandestine meetings, of secrets that could bring down powerful men. Johnny leaned forward, his eyes sharp and focused. "You've certainly piqued our interest, Veronica, but we'll need all the details you can provide." As Veronica continued her story, the room became a sanctuary of trust and intrigue, a place where mysteries unfolded and alliances were forged. With each word, the trio realized they were about to embark on another thrilling adventure in the gritty world of 1960s San Francisco. As the night wore on, the cards were forgotten, replaced by a new game, a game of wits and danger that Johnny Ryder and his loyal companions were more than ready to play. With a twinkle in his eye, Johnny whispered to Daisy and Billy, "Looks like we've got ourselves a real doozy of a case, folks. Time to roll up our sleeves and dig deep." And so, as the city outside settled into the embrace of the night, Johnny Ryder, Daisy Diamonds, and Billy Bubbles braced themselves for the next chapter in their detective saga, wherever it might lead. The night was young, and the shadows held secrets waiting to be uncovered.